I am your Coach J. Rose, your transformational tour guide, taking you on the journey today down the road called hard conversations. I think hard conversations, it's an area, it's a skill, it's a tool that we all need and could use. Because when it comes to those hard conversations, we either have them or we don't have them, or we don't know how to have them. So I'm going to give you tools and techniques to help you have hard conversations. This kept coming up based on the conversations that I am involved in. Let me say that. And I know that um, the main theme has been hard conversations, whether people know it or not. I'm like, you got to have a conversation with that person. What does that look like? We tend to avoid those hard conversations, maybe because we don't have the tools or the skills or the language to even know how to articulate what we're feeling and how to have this conversation in a safe way, leaving the other person's dignity intact. How do you do that? So I decided to pull some key strategies from this amazing book that I read called How to Have Hard Conversations by Dr. Henry Cloud. Because this area is an area that cripples us. When we don't know how to have these hard conversations, we don't have them. When we don't have the skills or the tools to have the hard conversations, we don't have them. So that results in we stop talking to people. We're done with them. We get so angry with them, we say a bunch of things, and then the relationship is just over, it dissolves. So I want to help prevent that. You can have a hard conversation with a person, leaving that person's dignity intact. You don't have to insult them. You don't have to beat them down. It's not about right or wrong. We're attacking the problem, not the person. Just keep that in mind. When you're having that hard conversation, we're not attacking the problem. We're not attacking the person. We're attacking the problem. So if we could see that differently, we can approach those hard conversations differently. A lot of times we don't have those hard conversations because we don't know how to have them. So I'm here to give you some key strategies and I'm here to give you some dialogue to help you with that. Hard conversations. Let's get into it. We all encounter hard conversations in life, and whether it's with a loved one, a colleague, or a friend. I want to share some key insights from a book titled How to Have Hard Conversations that will help you navigate these moments with confidence and clarity. Okay. So, mastering difficult conversations for personal and professional growth. Okay. Why hard conversations matter? Because avoiding it leads to bigger issues and misunderstandings. Avoiding the hard conversations leads to bigger issues and bigger misunderstandings. Effective communication builds trust and strengthens the relationship. Okay. They provide opportunities for growth and resolution. That is what we want. Okay. We want to have better relationships. We want to have better communication, but we got to know what that looks like. Okay. It starts with us. Be clear about your intentions. Okay. Start with clarity. Know what you want to achieve. Are you seeking resolution, clarity, or simply sharing your perspective? So when it comes to having a conversation, what is the purpose of the conversation? What do you want to achieve by having this hard conversation? You got to go in there. You have to go into the conversation with the resolution, clarity, or simply sharing your perspective. So what's the purpose of the conversation? All right, you want to get that out the way. You want to frame your conversation around the goal rather than focusing on the conflict itself. Okay, so you want the conversation to you want to frame the conversation around the goal rather than focusing on the conflict. All right. For example, I'd like us to work better together. I like us to work better together versus saying you always making mistakes. Don't that sound different? Because when you go in there with you, then you're accusing the other person, they're gonna shut down. The conversation ain't gonna go good. Okay. So that's a better way to reframe it. I like for us to work together better. I like for us to work better together versus saying you always make mistakes. Okay. Next, listen to this right here is key because some of us don't do this well. Listen to understand, not to respond. Listen to understand, not to respond. So many times we are entering conversations. Herb said you got to say, because I can't wait to say what I got to say, because you won't hear what I got to say. Okay. So go into the conversation, listening to understand, not to respond. Okay, so here are some active listening is crucial for hearing the other person's perspective fully before formulating your response. So here, listen to the other person's perspective fully before you respond. Okay, so we want to practice reflective listening. Repeat back what you heard to show you understand. Okay, repeat back what you heard the person say to show you understand, and also to show that you're listening. Sometimes we don't go into the conversation listening. We go into the conversation, hurry up and say what you got to say because I got something to tell you about you. Okay, so go into it listening to understand. Repeat back what they said to you. Okay, next we have, so here's the example. So what I'm hearing is that you feel unheard when I make decisions about without consulting you. Hello, Adam. So here's a powerful reframe, okay? It's gonna help y'all have better hard conversations versus you avoiding the conversation and then y'all just dissolving a relationship without even talking. We gotta be able to have these hard conversations. Let's stop talking about each other and start talking to each other so we can resolve the conflict, okay? Attack the problem, not the person. All right. That's a recap, real quick. Okay. So let me go back to that example again. So what I'm hearing is that you feel unheard when I'm making decisions without consulting you. Okay. Next, you want to manage your emotions. Oh my goodness. Manage your emotions. A lot of times we're going into these conversations heated. If you are upset and that person is upset, that is not the time to have the conversation. Okay. If you going into that conversation already upset, already angry, already in your feelings, whatever that is, it is not the time to have that conversation. Okay. So many times we don't even think about that. Well, I'm so pissed off right now. I'm gonna tell them this and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. That is not the time to have the conversation. Okay. We have to manage our emotions. Recognize your emotional triggers because sometimes we be triggered. And when you're triggered, this prefrontal cortex break, it just is gone, and you just start saying stuff that you don't even know what you're saying. Then you're like, I said that. Yeah, you said that. When you get angry, you ain't thinking clearly. That's why it's not good to have the conversation when you're upset. Okay. Anyway, I digress. All right. So you want to stay calm. You want to stay centered. You want to take a moment to breathe, pause if emotions are escalating. You want to take a moment. Let me take a breath. Because sometimes when you're expressing yourself, you're hearing different things, it can trigger you. It can cause these emotions to go all over the place. So be mindful to take those breaths. Be mindful to check in with how am I feeling. And it's okay to pause the conversation. You know what? Now is not a good time for us to continue this conversation. So let's have this conversation at a later time. That's okay too. All right. So you say, I need a minute. You can say this, I need a minute to collect my thoughts so I can respond appropriately. Oh, can you give me a minute to collect my thoughts so I can respond appropriately? When you feel those emotions coming up, when you feel all of the things coming up, you can take a minute to pause. You know what? Let me take a minute to collect my thoughts so I can respond appropriately. I don't want to respond right now. I need a minute. Can you give me a minute? Take a pause. It's okay to pause. You don't have to continue to go on with the conversation, especially when your emotions are all over the place. All right. So you want to use I statements, all right? Avoid blaming by using I statements instead of you. Totally different conversation when you use I statement versus you statement, because you is accusing, is accusation, is condemning, it's gonna shut the person all the way down. They ain't gonna hear nothing else you say when you start you. When you start doing that, it's over, it's wrapped. They ain't even talking, they ain't even comprehending what you're saying. All right. So you don't want to do that. Frame your concerns in terms of your own feelings and experiences. Frame your concerns in terms of your own feelings and your own experiences, all right? For example, I feel overwhelmed when I'm not informed about changes instead of you never tell me what's going on. Oh, it's the little things, but we got to know what it is, right? So just listen to this right here. I feel overwhelmed when I'm not informed about changes versus you're saying You never tell me what's going on. Totally different conversation. And when you go into this conversation, I like to say, when you go into the conversation with love and leading with love, you're going to resolve that thing, whether you remain friends or not. You're going to resolve it because you go into the conversation leaving both of your dignities intact. You can have a hard conversation and still walk away complete and whole, loving one another and leaving each other alone. That's totally fine. All right. So next we have you want to stay focused on the issue. Don't let the conversation drift into unrelated topics or past grievances. Okay. Stay focused on the topic. We ain't talking about what happened in 2019. We're not talking about what happened 2 months ago. You want to stay focused on the related topic. Because a lot of times when we're going to these conversations, well, you remember that time and you did this and you did that. Remember that time you had no. You don't want to do none of those things. You want to stay on the related topic. Next, keep the conversation on track by returning to the main issue. Let's stay focused. And here's what you can say when if you find the conversation shifting. Let's stay focused on what we're discussing right now. Let's stay focused on what we're discussing right now. That's how you shift that conversation, okay? Know when to pause or walk away. You got to know when to pause or walk away. Because sometimes when you're expressing how you're feeling, other people can get upset. If you see that these emotions, if you see this person is getting triggered, you know what? Let's revisit this conversation at a later time. You can say that too. All right. Recognize when the conversation, here you go. Recognize when the conversation isn't productive and consider revisiting it later. When you see the conversation is not productive, you can revisit it later. You can, okay? Politely pause and reschedule if emotions are too high or clarity is needed. Pause. Politely pause. Reschedule if emotions are too high or if clarity is needed. All right. Here's an example. It seems like we're not making progress. Can we continue this conversation tomorrow? It seems like we're not making progress. Can we continue this conversation tomorrow? Or at a later time. Maybe we can schedule time to have this conversation. That way, when you schedule time to have the conversation, you know what you can do? You can take some notes. That way, you can cover the topics that you want to cover. You can say the things that you want to say versus you're in the conversation and then when those emotions get high, we kind of forget what's happening. We kind of forget what's going on, right? To summarize everything I just said, clarity, listening, and emotional management is key for having hard conversations. Um, are keys to having effective hard conversations. All right. So I want you to reflect on your current challenge and apply these techniques. So I'm quite sure that all of us have a hard conversation that we've been avoiding that we need to have. And if this is you, I've given you some tools and techniques to help you have that hard conversation versus avoiding the conversation. Because a lot of times we don't have the hard conversation with the person. We start talking to somebody else about it. Let me tell you what so and so did. You ain't gonna believe this right here. I ain't talking about nobody, but talk to that person because another person can't help you solve a problem you got with that person. They can't help you. They can give you their perspective, they can give you their advice, but at the end of the day, you and that person need to have that hard conversation. Stop avoiding the hard conversation because it's not gonna go away. What's going to happen is you're going to build resentment. And when you run that person, you're just going to be so mad. You're going to start treating them differently. You're going to start feeling differently about them because you've got these unresolved issues that you have never talked about, you have never expressed. It is okay to have the hard conversation. Okay. That's what adults do. That's what we do. We agree to disagree, but we express our feelings to one another so we can move forward in peace and in love. All right. So I want you to think of a difficult conversation that you've been avoiding. All right. I want you to think of a difficult conversation that you've been avoiding, and I want you to use the strategies that I discuss and how can you approach it differently. Who has a hard conversation, a difficult conversation that they've been avoiding? Who has a difficult conversation that they've been avoiding and they need to have? I've given you strategies, I've given you tips to help you have that hard conversation, okay? Are there any questions or just are there any comments? Are there anything like do you need support with or is there a conversation you need to have and you don't know how to have it? Yeah, put it in the comment section. Let's see if we can kind of play it out in real time. Maybe I can give you some tips or techniques on how to respond to that in that hard conversation. I want to run back over the points. Why conversations matter because if you avoid them they lead to bigger issues and misunderstandings. You want to start with clarity. You want to frame your conversation around a goal rather than focusing on the conflict itself. You want to listen to understand, not to respond. That is so key. Listen to understand, not to respond. So many times we ain't even listening. Listen and silent has the same letters. When you're listening, you are silent. And here's a acronym that my professor gave us. Wait. When somebody is talking, wait. And here's the acronym of that wait. Why am I talking? Why? And when you think of when you get ready to say something, actually just say wait. Why am I talking? Why am I talking? Because you want to listen to understand, not to respond. Okay. You want to manage your emotions. Look at here. You have to manage your emotions. Don't let your emotions manage you because when your emotions manage you, then it gets out of control. And you say things or do things that you can't unsay or undo. It's imperative to manage your emotions during these hard conversations because I think this is why a lot of people avoid those hard conversations because then maybe they don't know how to manage their emotions. It is key, is imperative when having these hard conversations because emotions may arise. They will. People are going to say stuff that you might not like, right? But we got to be able to have the conversation in a way that's not assaulting the other person. We're not here to fight each other. We're here to talk about this issue, the problem. Don't attack the person, attack the problem. Okay. Next, you want to use those I statements. Not know you. Do not go into that conversation talking about, well, you did this and you did that and you didn't do this and you didn't do that. Don't go into it because the person's gonna be defensive, and it ain't gonna be a good. It's not gonna be a productive conversation. Tips are okay, but okay, tips are okay, but when he ignores you and walk away, well, you can't make anybody. You can't make anybody listen. You can't make anybody talk. You can ask them, okay, what's a good time for us to have this conversation? And make sure you're not going into the conversation with the you did this and you did and don't say no, we need to talk. Don't say don't say that because when you say that, especially to a man, oh my God, what did I do? Maybe you can reframe it as you know what? There's some things that I've been feeling and if we could discuss it. I want to share something with you that's on my heart. That sounds so much better than we need to talk. Because we need to talk. I don't know. You might be trying to break up with the person. They don't know what's going to happen. What do you do when the other person shuts down? It's not a good time to have the conversation. You can't do nothing when the other person shut down. You can't talk to somebody that ain't talking back. Okay. So we have to give that person the space, give that person their space. Because we don't know certain things that we say could be triggering for that person. Like we don't know. We don't know what's going on in their head, right? Here's the thing: when you're having the conversation, notice the other person because some people do that. If they do that right there, they done shut down. They ain't. It's that's you got to look at the body language. Look at the body language. Okay, look at if they may be triggered. Maybe something that said that they feel like maybe it's not true. And all of these things are okay, but just notice the person, notice them, and then notice yourself as well. Because a lot of times we kind of match each other. We have match each other energy. We match each other what each other is doing. If you're doing a whole lot of this right here, they may start doing a whole lot of this right here. So you got to go into it calm. You got to go into it collect. I feel overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed when I'm not informed of changes. Um, you want to what else you want to do? And you want to make sure when they're talk, let them talk too. Let them talk too. So when you say what you say, ask them what did you hear me say? Because I can tell you something and you can hear something totally different. Okay? Because hurt people hear differently. Hurt people hear differently. They respond differently. So we got to be mindful of the person we're having the conversation with. Okay, invite them to the conversation. If they don't want to have the conversation, you can't make them. Okay, you can schedule a conversation. Hey, when would be a good time for us to have a conversation? There's some things that I've been feeling overwhelmed. I've been feeling not heard. I've been feeling whatever you've been feeling. Share what you are feeling. Share your experience, not you did this and you don't go into that with that finger right. They're doing that right. They don't go because that's what it looks like. That's what you may not be doing that, but when you say you, that's what it feels like to them sometimes. This right here. We don't want to do that. We don't want to go into the conversation trying to mother them or trying to parent them. We want to go into the conversation with love, with openness, because we're not attacking the person, we're attacking the problem. And sometimes people feel attacked. Most of the time, you know what's going on in their head that causes frustration on my part. Yeah, we can assume what's going on in their head. We really don't know what's going on in somebody else's head. Because if that's the case, we already know how to solve it. Well, I know what's going on in your head. You thinking it's no, we don't know what that other person's thinking. We want to go into the conversation curious. What is happening? What are you experiencing? I noticed that you cross your arms. Is there something that you want to share? Is there something that you're thinking about? Is it something what's happening right now? What's happening in this moment? Because I see your body shifting. Is now a good time to continue this conversation, or should we continue this conversation at a later time? Notice what's going on because we want to be able to manage. We can't manage other people's emotions. We cannot. We can only manage ours. So if you feel something happening within yourself, if you see something happening within someone else, we can pause the conversation. Don't force the conversation because it's not going to go well. It's not going to, if you see the conversation is not being productive, then it's time to end the conversation. Don't continue to push people. Don't continue to force them. If he's having an affair, he'll shut down on you. And then with you saying that, then you got to decide what you're gonna do for you. Because when people do things like that, it ain't even about you. It's about something that's going on with them. We can make it about us, but at the end of the day, that's not about us. If somebody makes a decision, that's on them. It is not on us. Can we talk about not having not? Ha- can we talk and not have closure? Can we talk and not have closure? You can. You don't have to have closure. You can give yourself closure. You don't need closure. So the purpose of the hard conversation is not about having closure. This is about this could go for several different conversations. This could go for what did I say? This can go for personal conversations. This can go for a conversation with a loved one, conversation with a colleague, conversation with a friend. We have to use our discernment, our better judgment when it comes to conversations on the topic of relationships. Now, when my relationship ended, without trying to talk to that person, there was no need to talk to the person because the actions had showed me everything. I didn't need to talk to that person. I didn't need to have any conversation with them. The relationship was over. It was dissolved. There's nothing for us. When the relationship is over and dissolved and finished and complete, there's no need for me to conversate. So we have to be mindful of what is the purpose? Okay, what is the purpose of this conversation? Why are we having a conversation? Are we trying to resolve something? Are we trying to come up with a resolution? What's the purpose of the conversation? Because once the relationship is over, there is no need for me to have a conversation with somebody who has already showed me that this relationship is complete. We're done. I don't need to talk to them. What I need to do is move on in peace and in love. Let it go. Let them go. And I don't need a conversation with that person to let them go. I don't need them to tell me nothing that's gonna make me feel better about completing. I like to call it a completed relationship. I don't need them to tell me anything about that. I don't. I forgive and I move on, and that doesn't require a conversation. Forgiveness doesn't require a conversation, and the conversation does not have to always happen when it comes to a relationship ending, being completed. It doesn't. You don't need that. Give yourself peace, give yourself grace, and move on. You don't need that. That's my take on it. Any more any more questions? Yeah. When I'm saying hard conversations, these are in relationships that you wish to resolve, to come up with a resolution. If the relationship is complete, there's no need for us to have a conversation. Just no need. We're complete. You made your choice, and now I get to make my choice. You have to choose yourself. I chose me. When that relationship was completed, I chose me. I chose to move on in peace. It was hard. It was hard because We want to have that we want to have that conversation. We do. We might not say it, but we want to have that conversation. We want to know why. You may not never know why. And even if they tell you, it may not be enough to make you feel good about it. So that's why you don't need it. I'm telling you, been there, done that, got the stamp, got the tattoo. You don't need it. You don't need that to be complete. You don't need that to be finished. You don't need that to move on. You forgive, you move on. That's it. Because what other people do and the decisions that other people make has nothing to do with us. Don't take it personal. And I know it's hard. I know what it's like to love somebody so much and they do the most despicable thing to hurt you. And you have to forgive, whether they say they're sorry or not, and move on in peace. Because if I sit up here and I've been talking about this thing and worrying about this thing, I would be stuck and stagnant. Because when he removes somebody from your life, he's removing them for a reason. He sees things that you don't see. That person didn't break my heart. God broke that person's grip. Thank him for that. Because it freed me. It allowed me to meet me. Because I didn't know who I was. I was throwing myself into relationships, becoming who they needed me to be because I didn't know who I was. And I was putting these people before God. He is a jealous God. He ain't playing that. So I'm glad for the broken heart. I'm glad for the rejection. It was his protection. It was all for his protection and my redirection. I don't know. My heart just felt led to say that. I'm complete. I just wanted to share this hard conversation tips and strategies because so many times I see women, especially us, y'all, I see us bickering and going and just tit for tat and being petty with each other when all we got to do is have a conversation. We don't know what the other person is going through. We don't know what they're experiencing. Sometimes people project things and it ain't got nothing to do with you. Nothing at all. Listen, I had to reframe that thing because how you reframe it is how you fight it. If I kept saying, "Oh, my heart broken. Oh, they broke my heart. Oh no, God broke their grip." When I say that, that frees me. That frees me from the judgment, the low self esteem, the unforgiveness, the doubt. Like, what's wrong with me? It frees me from all of those negative things that come up when relationships end. What's wrong with me? Why they went with that person? Why is that person better than me? All these things just come up in our head, right? So we got to reframe that. We got to reframe the lie. Those are lies. We got to reframe those things, okay? Change that perspective and watch everything shifts around you. It will. It will. It'll get better. It'll get better. Pain produced my purpose. Pain is the reason why I'm here doing what I'm doing now. I welcome the pain because out of the pain produces something inside of me that I didn't know was in me. And the same thing can happen for you. Okay? Pain is not the end of your story, it's only the beginning. I'm complete. You're welcome. I hope y'all have an amazing day. I thank you for your time and your attention. And I'll be back next Saturday, if the Lord's will, with another juicy topic. Something that's been on my heart I wanted to share today. But after what I shared last week was so heavy, I wanted to come with something light today. But next week I got some heavy stuff for you to process, for you to grasp. Until then, y'all stay in peace, all right? Have those conversations. Have those hard conversations, okay? Because you can have it. You can have it. You can do it. Go into it with a good heart, okay? Manage those emotions. Know that the purpose of the purpose of the hard conversation is to attack the problem and not the person. All right? Have a good day, y'all. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time and your attention. Be blessed. Bye, book, and bye.